Welcome to another Tracking Trends Thursday with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homestead Mason team. Today is Thursday, November 6th. Let's dive right in and talk about interest rates as we always do. So though the Fed reduced their interest rate, the mortgage interest rates actually went up a little bit after that. So we are currently, as of today, as of November 6th, averaging 6.22 for the 30-year fixed interest rate. Now, we are still, you can see here, the note is that rate actually does allow homebuyers to save thousands compared to earlier this year where interest rates have been, because our 52-week range, which you see here, was as high as 7.04%. So even the small changes in mortgage interest rates do add up to significant savings. And so the economic news, this is the same data that I had for you last week. I think we were ahead of it last week. And the reason why mortgage interest rates actually went up is because they are actually looking at the news coming out of the Fed meeting and what they're expecting to do next time they meet. They are meeting again in December, and at that time they are saying that it's not a foregone conclusion that they'll drop rates again. So that's why the reduction in mortgage interest rates had already been built in anticipation of what the Fed was going to do. And now, as they're anticipating December maybe not being a Fed cut, that's why we saw interest rates go up just a little bit. And what's happening in the Mid-Atlantic region is that contracts rose and showings rose, and new listings are relatively flat. So good news to see. I mean, those are signs of a healthy market. A 3.5% increase in contracts for the same week last year, and buyer traffic is higher as well. And what they're saying here is that because of lower mortgage rates and seasonally low list prices this time of year, listing prices do tend to be lower than at the rest of the year, and more inventory as well. So it's a favorable climate relatively right now for buyers. In the larger DC metro area, showings were up 3.5% from last year, down week over week by 7.6%, and that's normal for this season. And purchase contracts are up by 7% year over year and basically flat week over week. Time to contract longer by 5 days year over year, flat from last week at a median of 35 days from going on the market to under contract. New listings are actually down year over year and week over week. So that's interesting that there's less new listings coming on the market. 17% is a relatively big number. This time of year, I suggest to my sellers that if you don't necessarily have to sell now, wait until next year. Usually that's mid-November when I'm giving that advice. But right now, with the government shutdown, I'd probably be giving that same advice. Let's wait past the government shutdown at this point. So maybe that's why sellers are deciding not to list now. Median list price is up. I think last week it might have been down, but so the trend is still up, both year over year and week over week. Active listings up 34.6% year over year, down a little bit from last week. That is the larger DC metro area. And in our hyperlocal area, both listings and contracts are down just a bit from where they were last week and down from the average. So you can see here, again, down. This shows that they're down week over week, but not by a lot. Now, year over year, we are actually up. So we have more supply and more contracts than we did last year. The demand to supply ratio is more comfortable than it was at this time last year. 101% demand to supply ratio last year, only 89% this year, and you can see that is higher than it's been for some time. So while we are still in a government shutdown, this data doesn't necessarily reflect it. We are still seeing relatively normal buyer activity. I mean, these stats don't look drastically different from what we have been seeing. And the days on market is at 31 this past week. For our hyperlocal area, which covers Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church. And then you can see interest rates have just slowly and incrementally come down. since we started tracking it. And that is your Tracking Trends Thursday for today, November 6th. Anytime you do have questions about what's happening in the market and how that may impact your decisions about what you and your family want to do with real estate, please reach out. I enjoy having these conversations and want to help you figure it out. I've got the data to share. You can call me or text me at 571-210-1866. You can email me at kristen@homesbymason.com. And if you value these videos, please give me a like or subscribe or shoot me an email, any of those things. You can also, wherever you're watching this, down below, you'll find a link to get on my calendar. So thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. And I will maybe not see you next week. I will be in Massachusetts next week with family, so I might not make it here next week, but I will be definitely back the following week. So thanks again for watching.